Sunday bites and tidbits. This life they'll help you live it and get yourself together. Sunday bites and tidbits.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sunday Bites and Tidbits. Oh my goodness, and today's guest is Maya. Anyway, how y'all doing?
We're good. You sound like you're great.
I'm good. You look,
I'm all excited, huh?
You look so
As you
cute. I
should
love
be.
you.
Yeah,
You like my thing?
It's so cute.
Oh,
I like the way you got
thank
the little things down in the front. She just
Well,
did
it's because the scarf has all these little things hanging, and it was just a real big fat knot. And so I didn't have nothing else to do with them, so I just kind of put them on my face like they was bangs.
That's what I'm saying. They look like bangs.
I know. Anyway, how you ladies?
It matches.
Huh?
It matches your lipstick.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, you know, I'm matchy.
I love it. I love it. I love that.
I'm excited to be here today. We've been having so many great guests,
We have.
And it's been, it's inspirational, I hope, for you guys, but it's so been inspirational for me. And it's a reminder. And I'm telling you, ladies, one thing that's been working for me each week when I talk to someone else, they give me a nugget that I choose to carry with me the rest of that week.
Yeah, right.
And it's been so uplifting and so empowering. And as I'm, doing my little growth journey, I remember something that Keisha said, and I've been implementing that. I mean, I tell y'all, I implemented something this week. Maybe I could share that as my hot topic. But
there you go. Hot topic.
Well, it's time for the hot topic, so go. Share it.
Well,
Share it.
Well, I have two now because I have mine. But then I thought about the one to Keisha. But, we did an interview with Jacqueline Lindsay from kindness.org. And one of the things that was reminded that you are not your experiences. Those are just things you went through. So we don't have to own anything, especially things that were given to us from the past, anything was passed down. They don't belong to us unless we decide to carry them with us every day. So that's a good reminder. So that is my topic today, is to just remember that that's not who I am. That's something I've experienced.
I have one. Can I go? I have one.
Go.
So, like Tara said, we had Jacqueline Lindsay was on. And she was talking about kindness and talking about the difference between being nice and being kind, and how an act of kindness right now in her mind is that it's courageous. And I thought about that today because I participated in a film festival here in town, and it went really well. You know how you do something, you're just high? It was just so much fun. You just feel really high. And so it ended Saturday, and then Sunday, or that night of the festival, couldn't find my phone. Now we know that doesn't sound like a big deal.
Oh, yes, it is.
I couldn't find my phone in a building that I've never been in with people I didn't know for an hour.
No.
So stay calm. I'm walking around with my MacBook open, doing the find my phone, trying to find my phone. And I'm going somewhere with this. I'll make it quick. So Mitchell finds the phone. After an hour, he finds the phone. We get home, whatever, Next morning, we're out doing our walk. Where's my computer? So I look at my phone on the Find My, your computer is back at the building where you were last night. You left it. Mitchell goes, no, I think it's in the car. But I didn't see it. So I go back out. Sure enough, it's sitting on the seat. Didn't see it, was in the car, didn't see it. But that shakes you, right? So we're like, okay, good, cool, let's go for our walk. So we're going for our walk. All of a sudden, or we're headed to go for our walk, I get a notice, Mitchell's had a crash, had a car accident.
No.
And the EMTs have been notified and they're on the way. Except Mitchell is sitting next to me driving the car.
What's going on? Are you playing with us?
The phone was on top of the car. It fell off halfway in between the house and where we were going to walk, hit the ground, notified the EMTs. We had to go get it. They were super kind about it. It was hilarious. It was whatever. but both of us are going, something weird's going on in the spirit, right?
Wow.
We do our walk. Afterward, everybody, you guys know by now, I guess I'm the Kathy Lee of the show because I'm always going to talk about my kids. But Isaiah isn't home by himself, which I don't like for him to do very long. So I'm heading home, got to run, to the grocery store, get some things. I go in the grocery store, you guys. I get in the line and my card won't work. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, so I'm looking, no, there's money. What? It won't work, will not work. Wi-Fi won't work. So I can't even do it, nothing. So I had already paid for part of the groceries and I was buying another group. So I said to the young lady, and I probably should say the name of the store just so you guys can know where I was, but I said to the young lady, hey, I need to, come. When I tell you attitude, it just went, and then it just spiraled from there. I'm talking nasty, it was so bad. It was like Twilight Zone. Where does kindness come in? It's not about being nice. It's not about not saying anything. It's about saying whatever you say with the power of kindness. I'll end with this. She said, well, I can suspend this until you get back, but I need to see your receipt for the groceries that were already bagged. So my question is, what is it about me that makes you think you need to see my receipt for the stuff I already paid for? Whatever, that's neither here nor there. But kindness is being tested. Kindness is being tested. And then one thing after the other until finally, and then Mitch and I got into it. And then it broke. We're both crying as we're walking. And we knew, okay, this was an attack or a test. Either way, we passed, and we used the power of love and the power of kindness to come out on the other side of it with revelation, with renewed hope, with enduring spirit connection. The whole thing was just it was an amazing. And so I guess I said all that to say, we do have an amazing guest today, and he's going to talk to you guys about being enough and knowing that you're enough. He's going to talk to you about all kinds of really empowering things, but I just wanted to put that out there. My intention and my hot topic is choosing kindness when there's ugliness around you and when people are intentionally coming after you, choosing to respond with kindness rather than in kind.
Beautiful.
That's my thing.
With that said, and remember, when you don't dis-ease, and disease is the same word. And when you have turmoil inside, that is dis-ease. Just be ready for some disease.
Right? It's true.
Go ahead, but take it over.
No, she already did enough. We're going to bring our guest on.
Okay.
Well, you don't want to tell us a little bit about him?
Okay, so our guest today, I actually met on Instagram. And, I met him because he had me on his podcast. Let me back it up. But I really met him on Instagram because I would visit his page. He's an incredible, incredible brother. I'm just so excited for him and his journey and what he is sharing with the masses every single day. I don't want to take any more time. I just want everybody to meet this brother right now, Harold Leffall.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You know what? Every time somebody tells me they're from the South, all of a sudden I feel like I gotta, they live in the South. I just feel like I gotta put on my accent, and it's really not that good. Although my family's from South Carolina, but anyway.
Actually, my mom is from Winston-Salem. That's
really?
That's where she grew up, and I've never been there. I hear it's very beautiful, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I love it here.
First and foremost, thank you so much for being so kind to be on the show with us today. I'm so excited to have you on. I want everybody to know your story. I really look up to you. I just honor your gift your gifts that you share with the masses every single day. I just think you're awesome. So everybody got to get to know who you are, period. Over and out.
Oh, thank you so much.
With
You
your
know, I love
almost 1 million followers on Instagram. I'm chasing you. I'm chasing your book. I'm trying.
You be popular.
Oh,
look,
he's a real influencer. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah, he's for real.
Wait, let me sit up straight.
look, I'm just learning what an influence is. I didn't even know what that was. Like when I first got on social media, I didn't know how to, get people to start looking at my videos that I was telling a story that, so I started taking off my shirt. And my son was like, Pops, yeah, you need to put your shirt back on. I was trying to figure because I couldn't figure because nobody was following me and was paying attention to my videos. I put up videos 10 people watch, 5 people watch. I'm like, well, dang, how do I get people?
You figured it out. You figured it out.
Your shirt as a way to get people to follow you.
Yeah, because you got
And
to,
it worked, obviously.
you got to get people to, I was like, okay, this 50-year-old man taking off his shirt, he looked decent, and people started,
Well, to be clear, it's not because a 50-year-old man took off his shirt. It's because a 50-year-old man who looks like you took off his shirt.
Let's just call it what it is. Let's call it what it is.
Tell it, Sylvia. You just tell the truth.
My mom used to, I'm just telling you what the Lord loves. That's just the truth. People scrolling by, go, oh, hey.
And obviously, Harold, somewhere in there, you knew that because you knew that it wouldn't work.
Well, you're your own best advertising. When people come in, they come in for the whatever, and they get in there and they get the story, and then you have them. That's the important part, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
But can we back this up just a hair, y'all? I know he's showing his legs and everything with them shorts on. Anyway, but what I really want for you to do for all of us is to give us a little bit of the backstory. What brought you here at this place and this time? What challenges, if you will, put the halo on you? What?
Yeah. Okay. So what happened for me, when I was 48, I went to the doctor just having a routine checkup. I had a new doctor, and the new doctor, they were asking me questions about family history, about folks that have diabetes, high blood pressure, and they came around to the question of cancer. They asked me, does anybody have cancer in your family? And I mistakenly thought that my dad had told me he had had prostate cancer at one point. At the time, I was living in Atlanta and he was living in California. And we'd have conversations on the phone. And you know how parents are, they kind of gloss over their health stuff. And he had mentioned something about prostate, and I could have sworn he said he had had prostate cancer. So because of that, I mentioned it to my doctor that, well, my dad had prostate cancer. So unbeknownst to me, she gave me a test. She took a test, the PST test, to check my levels. I didn't know she was doing this. So she checked my PST levels. And about 2 weeks later, I started getting calls from her. And I just ignored them because I'm like, what is she calling me for? And she kept calling and kept calling. I finally answered. And she said, it's really important that you come in because your PST levels were elevated. I'm like, what is that? I don't even know. I mean, not PST, PSA. Like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And so she said, well, it could be an indication of prostate cancer. And I'm like, what you talking about? Because at the time, I was feeling good. I was 48 at the time. I thought I was healthy just because I didn't eat pork. To me, that meant I was healthy because I didn't eat pork. And so went in and she set me up with a urologist, and they wanted to do a biopsy. And I'm like, biopsy? I'm like, now this is getting serious. So they did the biopsy, and the biopsy was the most excruciating. The biopsy was probably one of the most painful things afterwards, because they go into the prostate and they're scraping it. So afterwards, you're having all of these like blood coming out of your, that area.
Say,
And yeah, and but even going through the whole biopsy, I just never thought I was going to get a diagnosis of cancer. And never thought that was going to happen to me, even though the same year I got diagnosed, two of my friends who were much younger than me had died from cancer. So um, I got a call probably a week or so after the biopsy, and the doctor says, we need you to come in. Now, to me, nothing could come in. I'm like, what you need me to come in for? And so at that point, I knew that, that they had found something. And so they had, went in, they said, you have cancer. And I was like, and for me, initially, it just seemed surreal because you just never think that you're going to get a diagnosis like that. At least I didn't. And I just remember my doctor rushing me to have surgery. He was like, that was you got cancer. We need to schedule you, with an oncologist so we can get this. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, and I had so many questions about, how did this happen to me? I'm like, okay, well, you just talking about surgery. How did this happen? And they ended up connecting me with a urologist and an oncologist, and everybody was just pushing me to surgery. And I started doing my own research because I wanted to know what happened. Then I called my dad to tell him what was going on. I said, I have prostate cancer. And I was like, and I know you had it as well. And he was like, no, I ain't never had prostate cancer. He said
no.
he had an enlarged prostate. So, but thank God I made that error, because had I not made that error, they would have never checked it, and then it would have ran and did whatever it was going to do. And it was at that point though, I just wasn't feeling comfortable with the doctors. It just like, first of all, none of my doctors looked healthy, and I was asking them like, I'm like,
no, it's just it's the idea of that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like going to a dentist and
The dentist and his teeth are all jacked.
yeah. No,
he wants to tell you what you need to do for yours.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I actually have a question. When you were diagnosed, what stage were you diagnosed in?
And that's another thing. So I remember, and this is why I tell people it's so important to have somebody with you when you go to the doctor, because I didn't have anybody with me. I went there, and I remember asking the doctor, what stage was the cancer? And he never gave me an answer.
They never told you?
They never told me. And I didn't even press it, because I just was following what they were saying. When I asked the question, I just remember him saying, you just need to have surgery immediately, as soon as possible. So he never even told me the stage. I never even went back to figure out and find out what it was. And so I followed, and here's the thing, what was happening. So at the time I was kind of in transitioning. I had just got a new job. I didn't yet have health coverage on that job. So my old health coverage was getting ready to expire. So I had this short window, like, okay, I need to go ahead and have surgery because it's going to be a while. You got to work 90 days to get, your insurance kick in. So I went ahead and kind of did what they were saying. But at the same time, I started researching because I wanted to learn more about how this happened to me, because it didn't happen because of heredity, because my dad didn't have prostate cancer. My grandfather, nobody in my family ever had prostate cancer that I know of. So as I started researching, I started finding there was a strong correlation between meat and dairy to prostate cancer. Now, none of my doctors, my oncologist, urologist, my primary physician, none of them mentioned anything about that to me. And I brought that information to them, and I told them the research that I found, and they just kind of just dismissed what I was saying. And it was at that point that I made a decision just to start. I didn't just go cold turkey because I grew up on ribs and hamburgers, and the idea of just giving that up, even though I was, dealing with cancer, it was hard for me to even fathom not eating the way I used
Yeah.
to eat, you know. And the dairy, I was like addicted to dairy. And I'm like, but though all the things though that I was eating were things that were strongly correlated to cancer and things like diet. So because back then I grew up as a chubby kid. So I was always doing low carb stuff and eating lots of meat and cheese, all this stuff that
More of
was
a
low,
keto kind of
like,
life.
yeah, that's what I was eating,
Yeah.
trying to build muscle. And I just started slowly changing my diet, and I started noticing I was feeling different. I started noticing I was feeling better. And then what happened, I went ahead and I did what my doctor said. They wanted me to have surgery. And I remember my doctor saying, let's see if this works. Like, that doesn't sound, I'm like, so you want me to have surgery? We don't even know if this is going to work. And so I did the surgery, but I started, making the changes. I didn't completely like get rid of the meat and dairy overnight. I started, slowly getting myself off of it. And then, what happened to me because of the surgery, I had every imaginable side effect from the surgery. I had erectile dysfunction. Things just stopped working. And I
Mhm.
was 48. I'm like, things should, what is going on here? And then I had incontinence. I remember waking up, I had a dog and a cat, and they used to sleep in the bed with me. And I thought one of them had peed in my bed. I'm like, what is going on?
Wow.
And so my bladder was just doing its own thing.
Yeah.
So nothing was working below the waist. And the doctors, of course, they had a medication for everything.
Everything.
Uh, and it was at that point that I was like, okay, the information I'm reading about healing is saying food is medicine, food can heal your body, and I'm like, okay, let me stop playing around and just dibbling dabbling with this meat and cheese. This is not helping me. And I didn't want to get on that train of getting on drugs, because I remember when I was in my 20s and my grandfather was in his 60s. I remember he visited us, and he came, he had his regular suitcase with his clothes, and he had a small suitcase with all of his medications. And he used to have to put them in these little
Cups. Little,
plastic things.
little
Yeah,
things
yeah,
with
yeah.
snap
To
tops.
remember, I remember thinking, I do not want that to be my reality. But I can see how easily that happens, because once you get on one medication for something, it's going to have side effects. Then they're going to have to give you something for that. And I just refuse to do that. And so I had to swallow my little pride. I had to go up to the grocery store and get me some Depends, but I got me the fancy kind. They had some with colors. I'm like, if I'm gonna get my Depends, they're gonna be fancy. But I was like, I'm gonna figure this thing out.
Yeah.
I am gonna figure this thing out. And I refused to take any of the medications that the doctors, wanted to prescribe. And I started juicing, and I started fueling my body with fruits and vegetables. I didn't grow up eating fruits and vegetables. And I started noticing I was feeling really like alive. Like I
But
was
what made you
feeling.
start juicing? What?
So I saw this guy that did a juice cleanse, and he looked healthy. And I was like, well, let me try this. Because when you don't know what to do, you just start trying different things. And I'm like,
Mhm.
let me try this whole juicing thing. And I also like the idea of you can get a whole bunch of nutrients just in the glass. And
Right,
so that
right,
to
right.
me was appealing. And I just started noticing how much better I was feeling. And it took a while for my body to start to heal. So the erectile dysfunction, it didn't go away overnight. And there were times where I would just question, I'm like, am I doing I mean, does this even make sense to keep doing this? Because, you know, I don't feel like nothing is changing.
Wow.
But then all of a sudden,
Ew.
things started working again. I was like, wait a minute, my friend is back. My friend is back.
Yeah.
And then I remember waking up, and the pins was dry, and I'm like, and I was like, well, wait a minute. I was like, your body really can heal. And then, I went from I had to go for checkups every 6 months to see what was going on with the cancer. Then, I would go every 6 months. I think after a year, the cancer was gone, the erectile dysfunction was gone. And my doctors didn't know, what was going on. And they didn't even ask me what was going on. They were just like, keep on doing whatever you're doing, just keep on doing it.
Yeah.
They didn't even ask, what's going on.
Wow.
Because they're not learning about nutrition in med school. That's not because it's really not the healthcare industry. It's the sick maintenance industry. And so it's really not totally about getting you healthy. But I'm listening to you, and your story cuts very close to home for me. Because I also had a cancer diagnosis, and I asked you when it was in, what stage it was in, because they usually don't start tossing surgery at you until stage 3. And there's only 4 stages. When I was diagnosed, I was in stage 3, but I was also pregnant, so that surgery wasn't an option. But your story so resonates because the process is so similar. I was alone. They just handed me a little pamphlet, put a little highlight and handed it to me. Nurse walked out crying. You know what? And I didn't know what to do. I also grew up in a more conventional diet, but we did eat a ton of fruits and vegetables. I started doing what you did. I started researching, where are these toxins? And it was the meat. It was all the meat. So it was very easy for me to cut out pork. I thought I was healthy too, because I cut out pork. And then red meat, I was like, ooh, I'm healthy, red meat, right? But for me, the dairy wasn't as big a deal as the eggs were. Because I take that back. Dairy, not milk. It was cheese. Cheese part was for me, right?
Yeah.
But I started kind of thinking, what am I messing around with? And so I ended up cutting all that out. But their same protocol. It was, after the girls are born, complete hysterectomy, because it's really inoperable, but we're going to do surgery anyway. You know what I mean? And there was no conversation about, and those of you who are watching this, cancer is, we may need to put a trigger warning on this, because it's emotional for people. It's so many people have dealt with it. They know someone who's passed away, or there's somebody in their life has been touched by the big C, right? So when I listen to you talk about this and talk about how you took responsibility for your own health, and it was a mindset thing too, because you could have said, oh, well, this is what's happening. That's a big deal. And it has so much to do with our outcomes. Do you know what I mean? And so it's really interesting to hear you talk about that. And we're both sitting here post-cancer. I went through that 1 year too, had to check in every, and finally they just said, okay.
Let me ask you this, because I know, and there's so many people out there who say, well, I eat meat, nothing's happened to me. My grandmother's eaten meat all of her life, and she's eaten dairy, and we grew up, and she's fine, and now she's 90, she still eats meat. And then there are those who, who have, I know a couple of people who was diagnosed and then decided to, well, there's one person in particular, you know her too, Babette, but I'm not going to mention any names. She was diagnosed, I don't know if she was a vegan, but she was a healthy eater, a lot of juicing. And then she was still diagnosed with cancer and decided that she was going to go the holistic route, but then passed away anyway. So there's so many different variables to this that I'm a firm believer with you. I don't take medicine. I mean, I literally have to be keeled over before I'll take an aspirin, because I like to challenge my body to see what it can do first. And then if you beat me up to the core, and then I go, okay, 1 Tylenol, because I can't take it anymore. I really need to go to sleep. But what would you say to people like that? Because there's somebody out there listening, go, my grandmother ate meat. I've been eating chitlins and hog mogs and all my life and I am fine. And my grandmother makes it, she's fine. And then there are those who were kind of healthy, but still got diagnosed and went the holistic route and didn't.
Right.
What would you say?
And you know, for me, I don't I don't think that cancer was just one thing. I don't think it just came from just the food. For me, I didn't realize how much unhealed trauma I had. So for me, growing up, my dad was he was a good father when I was an adult, but as a kid, he was not a great father. My dad was physically abusive toward my mom. And I remember hearing my dad beat my mom. And as a kid, I remember putting a pillow over my head because I didn't want to hear the sounds because I was a mama's boy and to hear my mom in pain, and it was nothing I could do about it. And what would happen the very next day, my mom would have a black eye and nobody would talk about nothing. Nobody, we would just act like it didn't happen. And for years, I carried that trauma with me, just never feeling safe. Because as a kid, I didn't, if you don't feel safe in your home, how do you feel safe anywhere? And so for me, I think cancer was not, it was, yes, definitely food played a component, but I think that unhealed trauma and that stress and me normalizing stress, I was used to just being worried all the time. I'd wake up worried, going, this was way before cancer. That was just my norm. And so I think that cancer can be very layered,
Yeah.
I think it can have a mental health component to it, the food that we eat. But let's talk about the environment, the stuff in our air, the water that we're exposed to. All of those play a part. So it's not just one thing. But for me, I realized that when I was going through my whole cancer experience, that I needed to get into some therapy because when my son was younger, I went to therapy for him because he was acting, as my mother would say, acting a fool. And I didn't know how to handle him. And I didn't want to hurt him because somebody was going to get hurt in the house. And it wasn't going to be me. I said, I need to get some tools so I can figure out how to better understand what my son is going through. So I went to therapy the first time for him to kind of help deal with his emotional stuff. Um, but then I realized I needed to go for myself because sometimes too, when you go through something like cancer, you have PTSD around that, because, you know, you, when I think about it, like I said, I didn't have any symptoms. So you think this could happen again. And so there was so much going on that I needed someone to talk to and not my friends who ain't never been through what I've been through. And so for me, people who, say, Tara, like, well, my grandmother ate this way and she, it's so layered. And my thing is, we need to control what we can control. We can control what we put in our mouth,
And to be fair, what grandmama and them ate and great grandmama and them ate didn't have all the chemicals in it that
That's right.
our food does, even if you are eating vegetables. You can
Right.
be, and so that's one factor. It's also about mindset, again, like you said. And I think that specific cancers have specific causes. I know we're gonna have to go to break in a second, but my father passed away with brain cancer, and he had cancer also in his kidney. And I remember this was a doctor who said this to me. We're at the Veterans Hospital, and he was talking about unforgiveness. And he said that he had been talking to my father, and my father, who grew up in Tennessee back in a different time, had experienced the death of his mother at 16, the death of his father at 18, and he was left to raise his little sisters by himself. And so for him, it left a lot of, he saw lynchings, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of and he was one of the kindest people in the world, but that pain had been so compressed and suppressed, and that the doctor said to me, unforgiveness is in his mind the leading cause of cancer. Because it creates toxins, like Tara was saying earlier, the dis-ease of the disease creates those toxins that can create all kinds of things. So I love that we're talking about this in this way. It's not cookie cutter, one
Right.
trick pony kind of thing, right? Yeah.
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 And I'm a firm believer that nothing is from one thing,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah.
Mm.
And they say that we're all walking around with cancer cells in us on a regular basis. So it's what we
Mhm.
do, how we take care of ourselves, mind, body, spirit.
Right.
That's one of another reason why we moved the show from just talking about veganism or plant-based to talk about self-based, because without the other components, you can fall prey to anything, because we are all coming from a blueprint of something that may not have been the best situation,
Right.
for us even now, but
Mhm.
we're carrying it with us every day. And
Yeah.
men in particular, when we come back from our break, I'd like to dive into that, you as being a man and then being a Black man, going to
Mhm.
therapy, because
Right.
that's something that uh, a lot of men like to do. But with that said, how do we move beyond those old programmings and those old beliefs and those old, well, I can't do without my cheese. Look, I was a cheese addict, like completely a cheese addict.
Yeah.
If there was some brie on the table at a party, I stayed at the table till the brie was gone, and the brie went with me. So it was hard to kick it, but I said, you have a choice. You either kick it now or you're gonna kick something later.
I really want to compliment you for being such a giver. You did not have to take your journey to social media at all. You could have kept that all to yourself, and you know what I mean? But I watch you on your page, and you're such a teacher. You're so patient. You're teaching people how to clean the veggies. I ain't never took the time. Look, I got a bowl of veggies. I'm about to juice this shit. I ain't washing. He be washing and scrubbing, and but it's almost like you now use every moment as a teachable moment for yourself and others. It is such a gift to the whole. It's so many. Yeah, we talk that mess about, I gotta have my meat there, my uncle and I. Okay, and okay, but at least have knowledge. Be quiet long enough to get some wisdom. So if you happen to run into something, it will spark your memory and you can say, oh, that's what that guy was talking about. Just be quiet long enough to learn. Thank you so much for being the giver that you are. You went through all of that. And I remember making this comment on a post you made one day, but now you're on your purpose. It was part of the human experience, part of the journey. You had to do what you had to do.
Yeah.
Because you are working for the oneness. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Well, with all of that said, thank you for that, and thank
you,
you
Chef
again.
Albert. Thank you.
Yes, with all of that said, so we were talking about therapy. What kind of, have you gotten any pushback from, like, did you receive pushback from family members, friends on this journey of yours? Because people, they will be quick to tell you, oh man, he fooling around with them vegetables, them vegetable people, because the idea of shifting and changing their diet is so hard that, for the mindset to get behind, that they'd rather poo-poo on you, so that, hopefully that it doesn't work. So now you're back with them again. You know what I'm trying to say? Where you're back with your company. Because otherwise they may have to do something to shift their lives. So, have you were you met with a lot of resistance?
Oh yeah. So when I first started to change my diet, like I remember the first year after I stopped eating meat and dairy, my godmother had invited me over for Thanksgiving, and I had already eaten my stuff because I knew they weren't gonna have anything that I could eat. And while I was there, Black folk get mad if you don't eat their food. If you don't try their food, they get offended. And I'm like, And I explained to them, my rationale while I, was not no longer eating, that food. Y'all go ahead and do what y'all do, but I'm good. I'm good. But people, because we socialize over food, and if you're not partaking in what we're eating, they feel like, what's going on. But what I've discovered though now, because it's been so long now, and people have seen kind of, like my friends and relatives who are my age, all of them, if they have not changed their lifestyle, are either type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure medication, they deal with arthritis, and I don't have any of those things. So now I'm noticing that a lot of them are genuinely interested, and and they want to know. And I think for me, you know, just doing what I do and allowing folks to, if you catch it, you catch it. If you don't, you don't. I don't ever try to push anyone to do what I do or eat. It's just that I know what works for me, and like I always say, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. I've never felt this healthy. All the 48 years before, I began to change. I never felt this good. And I'm 57 now, and you know, yeah,
I,
Feeling great.
I had
yeah,
a similar experience with my family because I was vegetarian for 8 years before I went fully vegan. And the holidays, the gatherings, they had all the things to say, right? All the
yeah,
things. But it
right,
was funny because like you, I used to bring my own stuff and I
yeah,
love to cook. So I'd
yeah,
bring my own macaroni and cheese and bring my own whatever. And they over there scooting over there going, what you got? Nothing. Nothing. Doesn't need your business, right?
right,
But what I found, much like what you just said, those same family members who used to jab at me or whatever, particularly the ones who are really athletic and play, sports, they
yeah,
would, well, that's you need all the things. Well, then all the athletes start talking about being vegan, and the football players start talking about being vegan, and they look great and they're healthy and all that. Well, now everybody's looking at, and I mean, like Babette always says, nobody's running 100, right? But we
right.
scooting, we getting, we're doing, we're doing pretty good. People will look at you and say, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" I'm doing the
Mm,
same thing I was doing 25 years ago when you were making fun of me.
right,
And now,
right.
25 years later, this is where we are, right? But now, you know what? They want to know. So you
Yeah,
meet your Joseph, and when they
yeah,
come and they
mhm,
like, now they're like, you got anything? Yes, I still love you. I want to share this with you,
right,
not to be
right.
jealous. I do want to ask you about the black seed oil and how all of that came about. I'm very,
Mhm.
very interested in that because I've been all over your page since I learned about and your website and all of that, just really trying to glean.
Yeah,
And in my
yeah.
prep, I
Mhm.
really want to know about that. I was
Yeah, yeah.
intrigued.
So you know what, the same week, it's interesting how divinely things happen. The same week I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, I was to speak at this nonprofit organization, and I almost didn't go because I was still dealing with the news of the diagnosis, and I didn't know if I was going to be up to it. But I went ahead and I went. And I ended up sharing with the audience that, I had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Well, there was an herbalist that was there who came up to me afterwards and told me that she worked with a lot of people who were dealing with cancer. And one of the things she recommended that they take was black seed oil. And I had never heard of black seed oil, didn't know what that was, didn't know what it did. And she said, "Yeah, I recommend that you start taking it and even if you do any kind of traditional treatment, you still take the black seed oil because it helps to kill cancer cells." And so I started researching, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And that's what happened. I started taking it, and then after I went through my experience, I created a business around that. You know, so we do all the things that I started taking during that phase: the black seed oil, the sea moss, the ashwagandha, and now the soursop are all things that I started taking based upon what she told me, during that whole process. And, Dr. Bertice Berry always says this: when you walk with purpose, you collide with destiny.
Mhm.
And I was just trying to share with folks what I was learning, because I knew if I didn't know it, maybe there were a few other people that didn't.
Yeah.
And I wanted to provide, the information and products for folks that could help them on their journey.
Well, I'm a new customer.
Oh,
Ordering
thank you.
robes, not just, but but the men in my life.
Yeah.
For the men in my life, who some have been very candid to share with me that they've kind of dealt with some prostate issues, and they're not all in their 40s either. Some of them are younger, and so you're gonna be seeing my bulk orders coming through.
Okay.
I think it's really unfortunate that so many people will wait until there's something. You know what I mean? Like people in your life, when you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
But when you have an example and you still just don't want to pay attention because it's something different than what you're used to, but you will listen to somebody who you don't know,
Right.
like a random doctor. And I'm not saying anything bad about doctors because I go to doctors, you know what I mean?
Right.
But you will listen to someone just tell you, here, we're going to cut you up, we're going to take a pill, we're going to give you this prescription as soon as you walk in, without even really diagnosing anything. Because I've been to the emergency room and I had a pain. I say, something's going on. Okay, we're going to give you this. And I said, wait, stop. That's what I told the lady. Then I said, what are you writing? She says, well, I want to give you a prescription for pain. I said, you didn't even ask me if I have pain. I said, you're just giving me a prescription. I'm not going to fill it. Don't waste your time. So instead of me listening, if you were my friend, listening to you and some of the things you've done to change your life, I'll wait until whatever I'm dealing with has gotten so bad that now I'm going to go, hey, yo, man, Harold, you were talking about such. They just told me I have this. And that's when I get a lot of phone calls and emails from people. Tara, I know you said that your knee was bad and you didn't take anything, and now I still see you hiking, or one day you couldn't lift up your elbow up over your head, but I see you doing this. And I said, yeah, because the body will heal itself, and there are things that you can do. Right. But they wait until they're really desperate before they pick up the phone. And that's what I find sad, that we are so conditioned and more comfortable in being uncomfortable than we are with age.
But we're all on our separate journeys. We all have to get it when we get it. And that's the teachable moments. We are where we are, and we are where we need to be at the time that we're there. But God bless people that don't mind the share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the reality is, if somebody's not ready to hear, Bible says if you have ears to hear, not about the flappers, where not the flappers work. It's whether or not your system is ready to receive the information. And if it's not ready, it's not ready. Like you just said, Babette, when it's ready, when the student is ready,
the teacher will appear.
Always. And that's the only time it matters anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
So let me ask you this: you have a son. I don't know if you have more than one. Is he on the journey with you now, or?
No. And if I were to say I had one regret, is that I didn't know what I didn't know. So growing up, I was a single dad. I was giving him Hot Pockets. We were going to McDonald's. And so, he, ate that way. And he says he's 26, so he be changing. So one day he's pescatarian with this. So, he's on his journey, but he knows he has the information, but he's on his journey.
But no regrets. No regrets.
Exactly. But your job was to plant the seed.
That's all.
Water it and make it grow.
That's all.
And you did that.
I have no regrets. I have no regrets, not one stumble, not nothing I went through, because I am where I am today because of all of it. No regrets. He will get his when he's supposed to get his, Harold. You are the example, period. You're his dad. He sees you every single day. He's going to do it the way he wants to do it and allow him. Has nothing to do with you.
And he's taking it all in too. You know, they are taking it all in and learning and growing from it. And then one day it'll just be, I'm good.
I mean, if to encourage those of you out there who are parents, a lot of our viewers are fathers and mothers and bonus parents and grandparents and all the things. We're pointing them in the direction. We're sowing the seed, but they have free will. They have their choice, and they'll encourage you if they're not kind of following a path that you would hope they would follow. They're following their path. And to Babette's point, and to Tara's point, they're on their journey. And I was thinking about that as you were talking, Harold, about my kids saw me live vegan. They grew up watching me live vegan and vegetarian. And that's the way they were raised. But then when they grew up, they still made their own choices. One of them is strict vegan. Oh my gosh, she's like she's a hardcore vegan. The other two kind of were plant-based-ish, but you know what they did? See, this is where you see the seed. This is where you see the seed. Both of them have sons. From the time the babies were born until they were a year old, they were totally vegan. And they told their doctors, we're not giving them 1 ounce of dairy, 1 ounce of meat until I don't know what the year-old thing was. Both of those babies went back to the doctor for their year-old checkup, and the doctor said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. But what's interesting was when they told them they were going to do that, they got so much pushback. Well, babies need dairy and babies need this and blah, blah. And they were like, no, we're not doing that. Sure enough, both of them, 12-month checkup, perfectly healthy, perfect weight. All the development was perfect, and they were completely vegan from the time they were born until they were a year old. So, interesting. Well, I knew this was going to be great when I was. You probably saw, you didn't know me, and all of a sudden you saw this whole street of people.
You know what's funny, Harold, when you start.
Because I'm telling you, y'all don't know this prostate thing is a real thing, and this cancer.
You liked everything, huh?
Girl, important. Well, I didn't like anything when you didn't have a shirt on. Because I was like, I don't know everybody thinking I'm crazy.
But you know it's funny because as soon as you started talking about the pins, my mind said he would have got a whole lot of followers if he had been shirtless with the pins on.
That's crazy. That is crazy. It's true. It's true. But I'm so
But anyway, whatever. So anyway, we're talking with Harold, and so what do you have, like what's coming up for you? What are you working on? Anything that we can share with the people out there?
Well, I just finished my Juicing for Health tour that Chef Barbette was a part of, which was phenomenal. I'm just so used to doing my videos, so it was great to go from city to city to meet folks and who have, been kind of following my journey. So that was awesome. So we're planning to do that again next year.
So where all did you go?
So we went to Atlanta, Los Angeles, Charlotte, Oakland, and we had to cancel Houston because of the week we were supposed to have it was they had the hurricane there.
Any like books or anything? Are you working on anything? Because people want to know.
Yeah, so the Juicing for Health book came out 2 months ago. That's my second juicing book, but that's my that's my fifth book total.
What?
Yeah, so I have 5 books. Yeah. So my first book that I wrote when I started my first business when I was 29, it's called Brother CEO, a business success guide for African American men. So I wrote that book when I started my first business. And my second book was called Living from Within, Getting to the Heart of True Happiness, Self-Acceptance, and Love. My third book was I Am Enough, because for most of my life, I didn't feel like I was enough. And then my fourth book was Juicing 101. And then my fifth book is Juicing for Health.
You are fire.
Let me ask you a question. Where in the book journey did the cancer happen?
The cancer happened before I Am Enough.
And that is the third book?
That was the third book.
Which is
Yeah.
interesting. And I say that, I asked that for a reason. You were already on this journey of healing self. And it sounded like your books were about growth and about healing and about, about helping men. And what was missing, sounds to me like, was the component of what we put in our bodies. So now you're talking about what you put in your mind and how, and all the past trauma and all that stuff carries with us, but not what we're eating. You didn't have knowledge of that at that point, it seems like. So it almost makes you wonder this divine gift that you went through taught you so much to be able to add this component of, now I got you over here with this, now this has to be added to it. And so now you're taking the whole shebangle and feeding it to them. Interesting.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, again, people in the comments, if I'm attributing this to the wrong person, tell us. But I think Tim Story, not the director, the speaker, Tim Story, I think he said that your setback is a setup for your breakthrough.
There you go.
I think Tim Story said that. Might not be Tim Story, but it's good anyway.
It's good.
You're an example of that. That thing that was obviously a setback propelled you forward to be able to tell your story in this way. It's a beautiful thing.
James Baldwin once said, you can't fix what you won't face. You can't fix what you won't face. And for me, what led me to therapy was I was just tired. I was just tired of feeling empty. I was tired of feeling afraid. I was tired of sabotaging myself and sabotaging relationships, because the common thread through everything that was going on was me. And I knew that my friends couldn't help me because we at the same level, y'all can, and I knew I needed to talk to someone to give me some new tools to help me to realize the dreams and the things that I wanted to accomplish, and to live a life of health and joy and freedom. That was so important to me. I'm like, this is the only life I got, and I want to live it in a good way.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So are you completely raw?
Yeah. So, I'm doing a year of raw. So I'm doing a year of raw. This is what month of weird. This is my 8th month of raw. And so I don't know if I'll be raw forever, but I'm doing a year because I just wanted to see what my body would do,
And what's your favorite raw recipe now?
Oh, so
Or raw thing that you like to eat?
So I make this delicious raw beet burger.
I saw that the other day.
Yeah.
I saw that.
And I like these kelp noodles with some pesto sauce. I like that. That's another one of my favorites. Yeah.
Anything you want to leave with us today as we get ready to sign off?
I just want to remind people that change really is possible. I know sometimes it doesn't feel like it, sometimes it doesn't look like it, but change is possible and healing is possible, whether that's healing to your body or healing to your mind, to your soul. Healing is possible. This ain't what somebody told me. This is what I've lived.
So good. That's so. And where can folks find you?
So on social media, it's Harold. My name Harold Leffall. All on social media.
And your website?
It's the Good Living Now.
We want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you so much, Harold Leffall. Thank you, Sylvia, and thank you, Babette, as always. Make sure you subscribe and like our pages. Make sure you follow him. You can scroll all the way down to the end, ladies, and you see the shirtless people. I didn't say that, but they're there. And we'll see you next time. But before we go, what is it, Sylvia?
Nobody can do you better than you.
And I'd like to say this to y'all. Hey, nobody can do you better than you, babe.
Harold has proved it. Nobody can do you better than you. Go ahead, Harold.
Nobody can do you better than you.
There you go. We see you all next time. Thank you all for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye.